Hello guys, trust you're doing fantastic. Now the next part is to examine the switch MAC address table. All right, so all we need to do is this. Now, like I said previously, a switch learns the MAC addresses and then builds the MAC address table as network device initiate communication on the network. All right, so the next thing we need to do is to open the command prompt on PC A and also PC B, and then type the command ipconfig/all. Let's view the MAC addresses for each of this PC. Close this window. All right, so let's start. So click on PC A, this environment, desktop environment, click on the command prompt, and then let's use the command ipconfig/. You have space, don't forget, use the space bar to add this white space /all, enter key, and then you're going to have all of this information. All right, so the MAC address is also known as the physical address, like you can find at this point. All right, so we need to type in this value. Okay. All right, so we have this as the MAC address, which is also known as the physical address for PCB. So let's write that down. You have to do that for the MAC addresses for the switch. So let's get the MAC address for switch 1 and switch 2. So all we need to do is to console into the switch 1 and 2 and then type show interface command on each of the switch. And then console into switch 1. Okay, console into the switch 1, you have to use the terminal and then accept all settings. Then here we are. Strike the enter key. It asks for password. Cisco is the password. Now, if you're typing the password, you're going to notice that you cannot see what you're typing, but never mind, just go ahead and type the correct password. All right, it's going to be invisible. You can't see it. Type the correct password. Once you're done typing the correct password, just strike your enter key. It's going to give you access into the user mode. Now use the command enable. Okay, it's going to ask you for password. Now to enter into the privilege exit mode, we have a password called class. Now you see one more time, I've typed the password class, but it's not visible. That is how it's going to be for everyone. It's not going to be visible. So once you're done typing it, just strike your enter key. All right, so it takes you into the privilege exit mode of the switch. So you can see how we're able to secure the password access into this. All right, so the next thing we need to do at this point, all right, so we need to type the show command, show interface F0/1. All right, so this is going to show you this information about the switch 1. So where is the MAC address? So the MAC address is what you have as the hardware is LAN's address. So you can see this is the MAC address. All right, so the buyer is the same thing as the MAC address. So it's called the born-in address. It's called the buyer. Okay, the buyer is called, the full meaning for buyer is means born-in address. So that is the address, the MAC address that is born on your NIC. All right, so this is the MAC address for PC. So let's type this. All right, so do the same thing for switch 2. The MAC address for switch 2 is this. You have it as 00D0 dot, have it at BC00BC00 dot, you have it as B8B894. All right, so we've been able to extract the MAC address for both switches. Now the next task is step 2, display the switch MAC address table. Now we can see this part. It says console into the switch S2 and view the MAC address table both before and after running network communication tests with ping. All right, so all we need to do is to click on PCB and then go over to the terminal, accept all settings, strike your enter key. All right, so it prompting you to enter a password. Okay, so what's our password? Cisco. All right, so let's enter into the global configuration mode using the command en enable. Okay, so we're asked to supply a password to enter into the privilege exit mode. The password should be class. Enter. So we are at the privilege exit mode of the switch. So at this point, all we need to do, all right, so we need to use the command show MAC address -table. All right, so say show MAC address -table. So once that is done, we're going to see something. All right, so we can see we have this information, which is ood.this. We have the MAC address, we have the type dynamic, and we have the port F0/1. All right, so we have something very similar like this. So which MAC address is this? E601. Okay, we have written E601. So this is the MAC address of S1. Okay. Now the question is, are there any MAC address recorded in the address table? The question is, did you see? Now let me read this to you. It says, even though there has been no network communication initiated across the network, it means we have not pinged any device. No ping communication has been initiated, that is the use of ping. It is possible that the switch has learned MAC addresses from its connection to the PC and the other switches. So are there any MAC address recorded in the MAC address table? Yes. So the answer is going to be yes, because we saw the MAC address of switch 1. So it means there's a MAC address recorded. All right, so we can do this for both switches, and we're going to see that we're going to get the same stuff. All right, so let's console into switch 1, terminal, accept all settings. Okay, strike the enter key. Okay, so we've been prompted to supply a password. All right, so this will be Cisco, okay, enable class. Okay, now let's use show MAC address table. All right, so for S1, when we use the command show MAC address table, what we got is the MAC address of S2. So let's confirm that, ending with B894. So let's see if that's the MAC address of, now we can see that is the MAC address of S2. So it has learned the MAC address of S2. Now let's go over to the next command. It says, if you had not previously recorded the MAC address of the network in step 1, how could you tell which device the MAC address belonged to using only the output from the show command address table? So this is telling us, imagine if you did not record those information, how would you have tell which MAC address is that? Now the answer is going to be that it depends on the number of devices connected to the switch port. So if there are many connections, it will show the connections of all that port. All right, so what we have is, because that there are just one connection to switch yes. So since we have not pinged using the PC, it means it's not going to record any information from the PC. It's only going to keep record of only the switches, right? So, or even if you have more PC connected to the switch, as long as we have not initiated a communication using those PCs, we're not going to get the MAC address of those PCs. So if we had more switches, it's going to be only the information of the switches that is going to be in the table. All right, so the next instruction says we should clear the S2 MAC address table and display the MAC address table again. It says clear MAC address table dynamic. So let's do that to S2. All right, so let's console into S2, accept all settings. It says clear MAC address. Right, so we say clear MAC address hyphen table dynamic. All right, so let's press the enter key. So we have cleared the MAC address table. So now all we need to do is let's quickly type the show MAC address table command again. So let's type show MAC address hyphen table. So let's see what we're going to get. All right, so we still got the same value. So does the MAC address table have any address in it? Now, the thing is, only the same information is displayed like the previous information before we cleared. So now it displayed, what was displayed is the same information. So the answer is going to be that no, it only displays the same information. So there are no other MAC addresses, only the same information that was displayed before. Now you will have to wait 10 seconds and type the same command. Okay, so let's wait for 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have waited for more than 10 seconds. So let's type the command one more time to see if we're going to get more information. Now, the same information is being displayed. So we did not get more information. All right, so the next thing we need to do is let's close this. And then let's try something a bit different. Now it says step 4. It says from PCB, ping the devices on the network and observe the switch MAC address table. All right, so from PCB, open a command prompt. So this is where we are. You can see from my cursor, I've highlighted this part. It says from PCB, open a command prompt and type ARP. All right, so not including multicast or broadcast addresses, how many device IP to MAC addresses pair has been learned by the ARP. So let's, okay, so go to the command prompt of PCB, and then all we need to do is to type ARP. So enter. Is this the command prompt? Okay, let's go to the command prompt of PCB. All right, so enter space. Okay, this is the command prompt of PCB. So let's type ARP. It says no ARP entry found. It means there is no record. All right, so the question is, not including multicast or broadcast addresses, how many device IP to MAC addresses pair has been found? None. Answer is none. None. We didn't say anything. So it's going to be none. We didn't find anything. Why we didn't find anything? Because there is no communication. We have not initiated the ping communication between devices. So we're not going to get any information because the ARP is a protocol that keeps a record of the MAC addresses as it relates to the IP addresses. So it maps IP addresses to MAC addresses. So this is what ARP does. So we have not communicated, no communication has been initiated within the network among the PCs. So therefore, no ARP entries found. It's none. So the next thing we need to do is this: from PCB command, let's ping PCA, S1, and S2. All right, so let's ping. We use the ping command, ping, ping. So what is the address of PCA is 192.168.1.1. All right, so let's send a ping. All right, we saw that we sent 4 packets, 4 was received, none was lost. So let's also ping switch 1, S1. So ping 192.168.1.11. All right, so let's say pinging S1 switch 1. Are we going to get a response? All right, we got response. We sent 4 packets, received 3, just 1 lost. All right, so we got response. That's good. Now let's ping switch 2, S2, which is going to be 192.168.1.12. Let's see, are we going to get response from switch 2? All right, so we got response from all the devices, PCA, S1, and S2. Now the question is, did all devices have successfully replied? Did they reply? Yes. They all replied. So yes. Right, it says from a console connection. See, it says from a console connection to S2, enter the show MAC address table command. All right, so all we need to do is we need to go over to the S2. Right, so we have seen this. Let's shut this down. So from the PCB, let's console into CC from a console connection to S2, enter show MAC address table command. Okay, so let's do that. Let's quickly go into S2 connection, accept all settings. Okay, it says password. That should be Cisco. Right, so enable class. All right, so let's see. It says let's enter the show MAC address. From here, you're gonna see it says enter the show MAC address table. Show MAC address table. So the question is, has the switch added additional MAC addresses to the MAC address table? If so, which address and device? So the answer is no. From what we can see, this is the previous MAC address we saw initially. There is no other new MAC address that has been added. It's the same. No new MAC address has been added. So therefore, the switch has not added additional MAC address. The answer is no. From PCB, open a command prompt and retype ARP. So let's see. All right, so it says from PCB. Let's enter the command prompt of PCB. Okay, it says type ARP, ARP space -E. Wow, did you notice something? We have more MAC addresses and IP addresses. So what we have said is that based on the ping, remember we pinged PCA, S1, and S2. So these are the records of the MAC address table. So now the question will be, now we have seen, based on the ping we did. All right, so remember, based on this ping, and we go to the document, based on this ping, you can see exactly the way we pinged PCA, S1, and S2. It shows the IP addresses and also with the MAC addresses. So you can see we've seen additional entries. Now the question is, does the PCB ARP cache have additional entries for all network devices that were sent pings? Yes. So the answer is yes. All right, so let's have a reflection on this question. All right, it says on Ethernet network, data is delivered to devices by their MAC addresses. For this to happen, with switches on PCs dynamically build ARP patches in MAC address tables. With only a few computers on the network, this process seems fairly easy. What might be some of the challenges on larger network? All right, so in this case, it will have a very large network. The challenges that may arise from large network is going to be ARP is used, okay, is used to map IP address to MAC address. Now, if we consider on a large network, so we'll have congestion, and definitely it will impact, okay, on the network. It will impact the network performance, okay, performance. Right, so this will be one of the challenges that we're going to face. Right, so when the network increases, you're going to have more PCs, hosts communicating, sending ARP broadcast, and then at the end of the day, you have full network, full with broadcast, and then we have network congestion at the end of the day. All right, so if you have watched this video up to this point, it means you have gained sufficient knowledge when it comes to view switch MAC address thing. All right, so at this point, I'm going to encourage you to pay attention to the subsequent videos in this channel. All right, then, enjoy this video. Bye.